everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a bit of an art challenge here. Today I am making an illustration and coloring it only with my orange and blue markers. Now this is actually a little bit inspired by a challenge that Copic Marker Australia has. They do monthly challenges with color palettes, and yeah, this month they decided on orange and blue, which is the YR and obviously B markers. So I have some pretty cool ideas for this and I can't wait to get into it, so let's just jump right into it. So I started off with doing the sketch digitally this time because I just prefer that sometimes. And yeah, the story that I wanted to convey a little bit was sort of like a fire and water love story. I wanted to draw two figures laying in opposite directions because they're sort of opposite to each other, holding hands, and I wanted to sort of have like steam or smoke coming off their hands, which sort of shows that these two characters are very different and they love each other, but their love is sort of hurting each other. I have no idea why I wanted to convey that kind of story, but that's just what was stuck in my head and I had to get it out onto some paper. So of course I'm doing this sketch now, and I did a sort of rough background idea and sketched that over the top. And yeah, I had to experiment a little bit because I don't know, I felt like the style that I was drawing in, I just didn't really like it at all. I don't know why, I just couldn't get it to a point where I liked it, and I don't know, I just wasn't really into it. So I actually ended up going over the top of that and just redoing the sketch and sort of rethinking how I wanted to go about it. And basically the sort of sketch that I ended up with was very sort of simplified, but I don't know, I feel like I really like this sort of cartoony style a little bit more. With this sort of art style I had in the original sketch, I just wasn't really a fan of it. But simplifying it and trying to get like less details in and just sort of concentrating on like the shading and stuff was sort of the way I wanted to go about it. So once I got all of that sketching behind me, I finally went in and did the line art. Now obviously I just printed off that sketch because I did it digitally, and then I put some paper over the top and taped it to the back, and I used my light box to transfer the sketch onto a new piece of paper. Now the paper I'm using today is my Strathmore Bristol paper, and I really do like this paper because it has a very nice smooth texture, great for markers, but it also has a little bit of tooth that can work with pencils. So for the line art style, I still wanted to go with that sort of simplistic style that I was experimenting with, and to do that I kind of kept to sort of thick, sort of sketchy lines. And yeah, I had a lot of fun trying to do really thick bold lines in the colors, as well as some thinnish lines as well. Not trying to concentrate too much on making the line art crisp or refined or anything like that, just sort of have a little bit of a sketchy style to it that makes it look like it's really sort of drawn with pencils. So for the colors, I did a blue for the woman, and I did a sort of reddish orange color for the man. And yeah, the colors that I picked are pretty simple, but that's just what I'm trying to do at the moment. Yeah, and also a little bit of orange for his sort of fire, and also a little bit of grey for the steam between them. Now after I got the line art all done, I sort of went in and I wanted to color this with a slightly different sort of style than I usually do. I wanted to try and experiment with the colors, but also the fact that I had a limited color palette meant that I sort of was forced to experiment with the colors a little bit because I didn't have all of my range of colors that I could shade with, so I kind of got a little bit experimental with it. So I tried to make sure that it did have some complex shading here and there. I used a bunch of orange colors, obviously, for the man, and a little bit of blue as well. I actually used a little bit of blue here and there in the shadows for him, and you don't see it at the moment because I haven't done it in the video yet, but Yeah, and I also used the really sort of light-ish orange colors that were slightly more closer to yellow. And yeah, I used those for the fire parts, and it's pretty interesting the sort of results I got with that, because it doesn't look completely like fire, it is sort of simplified, but I kind of really do like it. I like the look of it, and I like the softness, yet still the complexity of it, if that makes sense. It's like a really sort of soft and sort of simplified style, but the shading that I went in with it, I really tried to make it look really nice and interesting. Now I had a few different orange colors at my disposal. I had some more sort of like desaturated yellowy orange colors that was sort of cream, but they definitely were YR colors, so that's why I decided I could use those, as well as some like really sort of typical orangey colors, which I also used. I tried to make sure each areas of the drawing had sort of different colors in them, so that you could tell that it wasn't all the one hue and it didn't look sort of monotone. It kind of had a little bit of life in it, and I think I did that pretty well, especially with the shading of blue. Once I started to add those dark blue colors onto them, I really did sort of start to see sort of, I don't know, interesting things happen. Now for the woman, I actually have a lot more blue markers than I do orange. So for her, it was a little bit easier because I could go in with more colors here and there, and I had a bit more of a range of dark colors versus lighter colors as well. So I was still able to get some nice deep shadows with all of the blue colors, as opposed to getting deep shadows with the orange. But I still wanted to sort of make it look like it fit into the illustration, and if I sort of shaded with blue on him, I sort of had to add a little bit of orange on her as well. So what I actually ended up doing for that was that I picked my lightest orange color, and I actually put a little bit of orange here and there on the highlights of her. Because of course this dude here is made of fire, so he is going to be shining a sort of bright light onto her, so that's why I decided to go that way. Now I did add a lot of dark colors onto their hands where they're touching, and that's because I really wanted to sort of emphasize the effect of like a fireman and a water lady, sort of like if they touch hands, they're sort of hurting each other a little bit. So obviously I wanted to sort of darken it and make it look like they're sort of, I don't know, burning each other. Not exactly burning. Well, she's probably burning, but he's probably not. He's probably not burning. That's why it's sort of going that darker color. But yeah, after I got all of the colors down for those two, I sort of masked it all off with a bit of washi tape, and I used my X-Acto knife to cut around the edges so that I could have a nice sort of area where I could use my airbrush to add in a background. Now I really love my airbrush for backgrounds. I find it really fun and interesting, and I always get cool different effects with it. So yeah, I actually decided to go in with some orange and blue, of course. So I used a really dark sort of dark blue color called Prussian blue, and a few bright orange colors, and yeah, I just went in and did a sort of swirly background effect, and I really loved the results of that because one of these things I did actually was I was dripping some ink onto the nib and spraying it like immediately, and that gave me a bit more of a splattery effect on the paper. You can sort of see it in the illustration. And yeah, I had a lot of fun just getting different effects with the airbrush. I'm actually very surprised with how this turned out because the style is a little bit different to what I usually do, but I definitely had a lot of fun doing it, and yeah, it was really good and interesting. Here it is. This was a pretty interesting one. It's definitely very different to what I draw, The art style is quite interesting, but to be honest, I really do like it. I think it's pretty cool. And I like that you can have it sort of this way or this way, but I think I prefer having it this way. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit like and subscribe to get your scribble fix in the future, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone!